for coming. My name is Uzi Krieger. I'm with Panaya, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to see and manage change within your Salesforce org, helping admins manage change before you actually make a change, empowering admins to make sure that you're able to do things properly, quickly, and be the heroes that you are. So for today, we have a special guest. Well, first of all, of course, never gets tiring. Safe Harbor. And since I don't work for Salesforce, I'll move on. And we have a special guest today, one of our customers, Mark Ross, who is a longtime Salesforce Pro MVP. And I'm going to let him present how they've been using ChangeGuru, Panaya ChangeGuru. And he'll start off with a use case and talk about what they did within their org. And we'll be happy to take questions from there, and then we can show maybe another use case as well. So Mark, the floor is yours.
And I'm a new MVP. Oh, really? Yeah, new MVP. This is my first Dreamforce as an MVP, actually. So thank you. All right. So how many of you have ever had to make a change in your org to a field or to something that's in that metadata, and you're really not certain if you change it, what's going to happen? Yeah, everybody, yeah. It's something that happens quite a lot, especially the older your org gets, because the older your org gets, the bigger your org gets. Anybody who's got an org over, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old, you've probably got stuff you don't even know why it's there, right? Especially if you came in after, you've inherited it from somebody else. I've done stuff I've made, and I look at it and I'm like, why did I do this? This is stupid. Because we all grow and learn as admins. But that key point of not really knowing, after it gets so big and so complex, not really knowing what this little tweak over there, how it's going to affect the way the gears turn down on this other end, about 6 or 7 steps later, that can be pretty haranguing, especially when you make a change at the end of the day on Friday and you're like, I'm out, I'm done, I'm going home for the weekend, I'm doing nothing, I'm not even logging in over the weekend, I'm just nothing. And then you get a call prior to when you're supposed to show up on Monday morning from sales saying everything is broken, they can't do anything, oh my God, hair on fire, help me. And anything you can do to mitigate that, to prevent that very thing from happening and ruining your week right at the outset is a big help. Now, there are some ways that you can try to do this. One way is to try and document everything you do, and that's not really feasible. Is that better? I have volume. All right. It's not really feasible to actually try and document everything you do. It's not, especially if you have a team of more than one admin. If you're by yourself and you're really responsible and on the data track, then yeah, you might be able to do that. But if you've got 2 or 3 or 4 other people, like I got on my team, there's no way in hell, especially when some people are just completely incapable. So you need a way of actually reacting when you're going to make the change rather than planning ahead of time. Or in the case of maybe a tool, giving you the ability to research and find out what you're going to do well before you do it. Another way of doing that is a tool called Eclipse, but the level of engagement, the kind of learning curve on trying to use Eclipse, or the Force.com IDE as it is otherwise known, can be really daunting, especially if you're not a coder or a programmer in any way. You basically have to learn how to use a piece of software designed to write and save code in order to track these changes. And that, again, that can be really daunting. So what is needed is a tool that can actually do the research for you, give you the information, and what's more, present it in a way that is not only useful to you, but maybe your bosses, your superiors, so that you can show them, look, this little change that you've asked for is going to take me 8 hours, and here's why. So ChangeGuru is a product that is done by Panaya, and what it is basically the ability to go in and see all the places where one thing touches. And it can do fields, it can do pick list values, it can do profiles and roles. But the fields and the pick list values, those are really kind of the meat and potatoes. Those are the real big ones. Those are the ones that can be really useful. I'm going to go ahead and go into, I've got an org here. This is one of my sandboxes. And we had a use case come up recently where we had a field. It was originally set up as a text field. And it was populated by a trigger. And it was because we were trying to capture the role of the opportunity owner and put it in a field so that it could be accessed by reports. Now, as many of you probably know, you're thinking, well, why is that a big deal? You could have just made a formula field for that. Turns out, 2 or 3 years ago, that wasn't actually possible. That's a relatively recent addition to Salesforce. It used to be that you didn't have the ability to go find owner anything and put it in formulas or validation rules or anything. We were locked down to owner ID, and that was it. So in order to get that owner role and make that available, we had to actually use a trigger to populate it anytime it changed. Well, now we're at the point where that's kind of silly. We're trying to trim down our code. We're doing this major project, this major org merge. We're bringing in an entirely other org and trying to put it in our instance. And we need to trim down the code as much as possible, clean it up, because it's too much of this chaff. And this is one of the things that came up. There's really no need. We can do it with the formula field. So I've got this field here. Scroll down, down, down. Owner role. As you can see, it's a text field. Not going to be terribly useful to us. So I'm going to go ahead and load up the ChangeGuru tab. And it asks, what would you like to do? Well, I'm going to do a field analysis. I'm going to find out, because I want to replace this field with the formula field. That is my goal. But I need to know what reports, because this is the thing, right? We know it's being used for reports. I don't know what reports it's touching. In my instance, we have over 5,000 reports, probably closer to 5,200. And once you get past 500, even Eclipse goes, it can't handle it. It crashes. Well, it doesn't crash, it just stops. It will only capture the first 5,000 if you're lucky enough for it to not outright error out. So I need something. And I'm going to use Panaya to do that very thing. So we're going to go to opportunity is the object on which we're looking. And here's my owner role field. I'm going to click Analyze Impact. Voila. Pretty graphics. Look at that. We can see there's the Apex class that's actually populating that field. And we've got reports, 5 reports. And one of them is actually on 2 different dashboards. That's pretty sweet. I don't know about you guys. I saw this and I was like, because instantly my world got a lot easier. I could now easily make a change where I could know what that impact was going to be down the line, not just to the metadata, not just to the functionality and the automation, but to my users. I can actually say that my users are going to be affected in this way. And that helps me to plan so that I can say, okay, these are the things I need to change, but because it's affecting my users, I need to do it at like after 5 o'clock when all the salespeople have gone home, because these are all sales reports. So that gives me an idea of what I need to do. If I wanted to actually see what's in this Apex class, where it's referenced, I've got a little button here under View Source, and it pops open this spiffy little thing, shows me the code, and shows where it's actually mentioned and referenced, so that I can see where exactly in the code this is being called. So that's use case number 1. We had another use case. Again, my org has been around since 2007. It's been widely used since at least 2009. I arrived in 2012, I believe, January 2012. There were a lot of things done in this org prior to I got here. I wonder what this guy was thinking. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. For example, let's look at the stage, my opportunity stages that I've got. I've got, instead of closed 1, he changed it to closed or 1. I don't know on what planet that makes any sense in a sales process. Closed or won? I think it's both. I think it's always going to be both. It's closed or won. It's closed won or closed lost, not closed or won. So, like I said, we're in the middle of a major merge project. We've got another company who is coming in, and they're going to use our org. Well, they're going to see closed or won, and they're going to be confused as hell, because that doesn't make any sense. At least our guys, they've been with this org for years. They at least, they're used to it. It doesn't make any sense. We're like, it's just what it means. These new people, they're going to be completely thrown by this, and they're not the most accommodating sometimes. If there's a small change that is confusing to them, they tend to throw bricks at my glass house. So I need to make this change, or else I'm going to have no end of trouble. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to my opportunity fields here. I'm going to find stage. Now, I'm not worried about every place stage touches. That's too much. That's not going to help me. I just need to know where closed or won is mentioned. If you go inside the field inside ChangeGuru and it's a pick list field, it lists each of the pick list values separately, and I can click Analyze Impact just for one of those pick list values. Voila. I have, holy crap, over 30 reports that mention closed or won, specifically by text. Those reports are all going to fail spectacularly if I just up and change it to closed won, right? I've got, holy crap, a lot of Apex classes. And granted, some of these are tests, but I've got, here's a custom, here's a pop-up controller, a bunch of test classes, there's my big handler. Those are all being referenced there. I've got a trigger that's directly calling, I've got 4 triggers that's directly calling it. I've got an approval process. If I changed it, all this stuff would fail spectacularly. If I did not have ChangeGuru, I would have had a very bad Monday, right? This gives you the ability to plan, to be aware, and to be proactive instead of reactive to when things break. This has been an invaluable tool for us, and I can't recommend it enough. Uzi? My time?
Okay. Thank you, Mark. So before we jump into another use case, just if you have any questions you wanted to ask Mark or myself, feel free to. The question was, does ChangeGuru look at custom settings?
It does.
So the answer is no. Yes, sir. Yes, it sure does. Workflows, email templates, anything that you can think of. Go to the AppExchange. But it's very affordable, I can tell you that one.
It's not bad. It's really not bad. It's very affordable.
It's licensed per licenses for the app.
We do have this microphone available for questions.
Okay.
So if you can raise your hand.
But it's licensed per people who need to access the ChangeGuru. It's not licensed per every user you've got. So if you only have like 3 people who need to do it, you're paying for 3 licenses.
Is there any additional questions that someone wanted to ask in the audience? Okay, cool. I want to also mention, I don't know what size orgs you guys are running, but there was something that we added a while back that was very useful for many of our customers. And many of the customers have been coming and saying that they have lots of integrations in and out of Salesforce. And sure. And what happens is many times these integrations are, either a different team built them or they've been built a while back. And then what happens when we want to go and make a change, we don't even think about those integrations. And many times, and it's way too easy, the way the integrations are built in Salesforce, to break those integrations. So what we've done is we've basically added a field called integration field, or an object here, integration field. And I'm just running an analysis here, so this is a different org, lots of metadata as you can see. And you have here the integration field tab. And what it basically does is you have the ability to upload your integrations either manually or with data loader. And anytime that someone runs analysis with ChangeGuru, you get this visibility. So even if you're not aware of an integration, or someone on the admin team or someone built out an integration a while back, it's all there for you, so no one's by mistake going and deleting or changing or editing any kind of field that is going to impact an integration. And if you have nightly batches or things that are going on, and suddenly they're going to fail, and then there's going to be a lot of screaming and shouting, or trying to figure out how that happened, and no one's able to figure it out because someone last week made a change, an innocent change that maybe didn't impact the users, but suddenly did impact the process that you have with an integration. That's something that I wanted to kind of share with you. Another thing that you might want to be aware of is the ability for those of you who manage change with change requests, or try to have a more organized process. You have the Export Executive Summary button right over here, and when you click it, what you basically get is a PDF which will show you what the analysis that you ran. It will give you the impact summary of all your impacted components. It gives a list of a few of the top impacted components and who ran the report and when it was run. And the idea is here that you can take this PDF, and we call it executive summary for the reason that you can attach it to a change request in order to explain or prove why the effort that you're putting in is what it is. Its ability to track from a management perspective to understand, and it's a very good way for you to go back to the business and say, this is why your request is going to take us 8 hours or 3 days or 2 weeks. And it creates a better situation, or I would say a better relationship with the business side. So it's not just them putting in a request and you coming back and saying, oh, I can't do this, or this is going to take so long, and this way, it's more, I call it hard evidence of what is actually required in making this change. So it's not just your word against their word, or your word and that's it, because they obviously can't get that done without you. Another thing that I wanted to kind of show you was under reports. And many times you have a lot of impact on reports. And what we've basically put into under the reports, you have last run, created by, last modified date. So, and this very shortly in the next couple of weeks, it will also be, you can also sort. You'll be able to sort by them. And the idea here is that you might have, hundreds or maybe less or more reports that are being impacted, but do we really need to go and make a change to all these reports? And many times the answer is no, because those reports could be last run 3 years ago. No one's been using them. No one cleaned up the org from those reports. But when you want to go and make a change to a field or value, you end up trying to struggle and figuring out what you need to do there. So this is something else that you can use here to make sure that you're good and that you don't put in extra work. Or the flip side is to say back to the business, in order for me to do this 100%, this is the amount of effort. If you want, here are the reports that, or these are reports that haven't been run in X amount of time. If we don't go and change those, that's fine. And it will take less time, obviously, because there's less to do. A couple more things which I wanted to kind of show you, and maybe you kind of saw it here. There's two colors in the graph. There's the blue and there's the red. So it's what we call direct impact and indirect impact. And this is something which is nice to see, that the direct impact means that if you make a change to the field or value that we were looking at, it will break, so to speak, or not work properly if you don't make the change. But there are many components that are using what you are looking for, and therefore if you don't fix them, then there's going to be other things that are going to be showing inaccurate information. And I think the formula field here is a great example. So in this case, I took the stage field, and the stage field is being referenced in the formula, in general stage. If I don't go and make a change and fix the general stage when I make a change to the field, then the formula is going to be broken, so to speak, won't be accurate. And then, but there's lots of reports, and then in turn some code and some dashboards, and there's a whole bunch of things that are touching this formula. So I don't have to go and change all of this, what we call the indirect, but if I don't fix the direct, if I don't fix the formula, all of the indirect is going to be, so to speak, broken as well and be showing inaccurate information. So that's something that's useful for you to see, not only what you would need to fix, but what's the impact of not making the fix or not making the change. And that's as well something which is important. One last thing to mention, you have the ability to save an analysis. So if you want to, you ran an analysis and now you want to go work on it, maybe now, maybe later, maybe next week, you hit the save analysis. It's accessible for you anytime within the application. You can go back to it and it will show you exactly the way it looks right now, just based on the time that it ran. And you can work off of that in order to make the changes needed within your org. Any questions that you wanted to ask myself or Mark? Yes. We're not at the expo hall. We're here. We have another session here at 9:30, and we have meetings at the Marriott. And you're welcome to go look at it on the AppExchange. There's a full version that you can download, free trial. And you're welcome if you have any questions as well. Yes. So it's basically what it's doing is it's taking your entire metadata. What we do is the front end is a managed package, the way what you're seeing right now with the look and feel of Salesforce. We run every night, we run a metadata analysis. So we basically pull an extraction of your metadata that goes into the Amazon EC2 cloud. We do all the slicing and dicing on the Amazon cloud. We understand the dependencies of all your metadata. And then when we basically go and run a query like we've been doing right now, it pulls that information or visually. So it doesn't store anything on your org. It doesn't go against any data limitations or anything like that. There is a roadmap for things we want to do in the future, but this is right now what we've been doing. Fields, values, profiles, roles, and users. Yes, sir. We have a program for partners, both on referral and on working with multiple customers. By the way, since you were asking about other things, one very useful thing that we did not mention on users. So this is probably a very classic use case where you've been asked to deactivate a user, and then Salesforce tells you, no, you cannot do that because this user is being used in a workflow rule. And now start the guessing game where in the workflow, which workflow rule they're mentioned in, right? Or how are you going to go deactivate? Because it could be that there's only one workflow rule, but you have many workflow rules, and go figure out which one it is. So on the user's impact analysis, you can see in a click of a button exactly what's the impact going to be if you go and deactivate a user, or where the user is being used throughout your system. So thought that's useful for you as well. Yes, sir. There's another session here at 9:30. Yeah. And if anybody wants to talk to me right now, then you're welcome to stop by. Thank you very much, everybody.